Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Cruz and welcome back to another video. This one's a long time coming. As promised, I built the pedal board and now it's time for you to hear it, and I'm going to go through all of the details and how I have it rigged up. It's going to be a good one. Let's get it. Okay, so I've been promising a video like this for a long time now. It's super important to me that I do this video right, and so I've waited to make sure that my pedal board was exactly how I wanted it before I make a video like this where I detail my pedal board and basically give you a 2020 rundown. As you can see, my pedal board looks a tad bit different than it looked in the beginning of 2020 or the beginning of quarantine. And that's because, full disclosure, that very cool carry case that I usually walk around with, that golden with all the stickers, it's kind of going on me. So I decided to make that my camera gear case, and I had to purchase a new one. It was a very specific size. It was lightweight. You could carry it on an airplane. So I thought this would be a great case, but it was exactly, I think the inner dimensions were like 11 by 20 or something like that. And my pedal board was exactly 11 inches in the height. And so it was very, very snug. And the only way I can get that pedal board in there was by unplugging the power to the pedals, and I don't even want to deal with that when I travel. So I reconfigured the pedal board, and I came up with what I think is an even better system than what I originally had. So I'm very, very happy with it, and yeah, let's show you what it sounds like. First, let's discuss the one thing you actually can't see in this video, and that's the power supply. I'm using the True Tone One Spot Pro CS12. I've been using this power brick for a long time now, for years now, and I absolutely love it. It's probably more intense than I need it to be. It has more milliamps, but I like that because if I ever decide to use a milliamp hungry pedal or pedals, for example, it's important that you have a power supply that can actually handle that, and this one handles it perfectly. As you can see, I'm even powering the HX Stomp with it, and that's got like over 500 milliamp requirement or something like that. The other thing that I have mounted under the board is the bright switch, which is that light that you see right here. I'm going to point to it with my toe there. Boop, that little light right there. It's always on. I know what you're thinking. Do you always need it on? Yes, I do. Typically, this pedal board is not where you see it right now. Typically, it's underneath my desk, and my desk is obviously underneath there is dark, right? So, and then plus when you're on a dark stage, it's so convenient to be able to have that light and see exactly what you got going on. So that thing is a lifesaver, and it's been on my board since I got it, and I love it. So now let's finally discuss what you actually see here on the board. If you look on the side of the pedal board right here, you see my input and output going into like this little box right there. That is a mini patch bay that was made by This One's Mine, the company This One's Mine. My actual input, the first thing that my guitar touches, is not any pedal. It's actually the Boss ES-5, okay? And if you look at the Boss ES-5's input, which is right here, I'm going to point to it. That's really inconvenient to get to with a 1/4-inch cable, especially the thick 1/4-inch cable that I'm currently using right now. So if I didn't have a unit like that to allow me to go into that first and then go into the Boss ES-5, then I'd really be stuck configuring my pedal board to work around my input jacks versus me just letting it work for me the way I like it to be set up. And that's the reason why I use a loop switcher too, because I really love to be able to throw my pedal board and play Tetris with it in any way that I want to, and not worry so much about where the pedals have to go in what order, or where my input jacks and output jacks have to be, accessible, because I have to plug in and out of them, obviously. So having a product like that is really helpful. It's pretty inexpensive, specifically that one. There's others on the market, the Interfacer, that they get a little more extensive, but that's been working for me really, really well. Loop 1 or preset 1, whatever we're going to call it in this situation, is my clean sound. It just has the Deep 6 compressor on, and this is what that sounds like. Loop 2 or preset 2, the compressor stays on, but now the JHS Morning Glory turns on with it. Loop 3 or preset 3, the Morning Glory turns off and the tumness turns on for my second stage gain, but the compressor still stays on, so it's compression into the tumness. Loop 4 or preset 4 is my crunch sound. Now that means that the Morning Glory is going to come back. So it's compression into the Morning Glory, into the tumness. Then loop 5. Loop 5 is my solo tone. That means that the Morning Glory turns off, so I have compression going straight into the tumness and the tumness into the Ibanez 2 Screamer Mini. I have a little bit of gain on that, and mainly just for some tone shaping and mid-range punch so that I can cut through the mix for my solos. That's what this sounds like. So I'm doing some other things with the Boss ES5, but I want to move on from there for a second, and I want to continue on to the rest of the pedal board. We'll come back to the Boss ES5 and how I'm using the MIDI functions to communicate with the rest of the board. Out of the output of the Boss ES5, we go straight into the Dunlop volume pedal here. This is the mini version. I've had it for a long time. I've told people this before. I prefer a normal size volume pedal, but I also prefer to have as many pedals as I possibly can on a very small pedal board. So this kind of solves my problems, but this is probably one of the better volume pedals that I've ever used throughout my entire career. And I was a big proponent or really big on the Ernie Ball VP Juniors. I know that they kind of suck your tone and that whole thing, but I love them. I love the feel. I love the look of them. Unfortunately, they're a little bit oversized. So it's, for example, if I had the VP Junior on my pedal board right now, it would take up this entire space right here that my foot is taking up right now. And that's just a lot of real estate to give up for a volume pedal when I have a perfectly good volume pedal that's half the size and quite honestly is better. It sounds better, has a better sweep, goes from 0 to 100 very smoothly. It doesn't just cut out. So it's a very good volume pedal and I love it. From the volume pedal, we then go into the Digicheck Jamman Solo XT. This pedal I've gotten a lot of questions about, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this video right here or here, wherever it shows up, where I discuss how I personally have been using this pedal. I don't use it for looping in any kind of way. I use its SD feature. So this pedal comes with the ability to load a micro SD inside with WAV files or MP3s because it's meant to load in backing tracks or jam tracks, so you jam with. It's a practice tool. It's a performance tool. I thought it would be cool to load pads in there. So I recorded pads in all 12 major keys and loaded them in there. And now I play them to accompany me when I don't have pads to accompany me. As an ambient player, pads are really important and I really like it and enjoy having them with me at all times. And I love that I can control them. I don't have to depend on somebody else to do so. This is great for maybe when someone's speaking. Maybe you're in a band, they're talking, and maybe it's a little intimate. Playing guitar may be a little bit too, I don't know, distracting. So putting on the pad would kind of set the tone and give you that ambience that you're looking for without being distracting. So right now it's loaded on track 6, and as you can see, or maybe you can't see it on my little cheat sheet on the pedal, track 6 has been assigned to the key of D. So I'll tell you what it sounds like. I'm actually going to turn on the reverb and delay. Because I want you to get sort of the full effect of it. The beauty about this pedal is that it has the ability to be able to creep in and creep out, so it kind of does its own little swell. So it's really great. Check it out. So that's probably the coolest part. It's its ability to fade out. I don't really have to worry about it. It's, locked in. I know it's going to sound good. I have the ability to control the volume if it's too loud, if it's too not loud enough. But I've really enjoyed this pedal. It's been a lifesaver. From the Jamman XT, we go into the HX Stomp. And this is the thing that obviously most of you are probably here for. You want to hear what the HX Stomp sounds like with pedals. Well, here you go. This is a fantastic product. I've talked about this product so much that it's to the point where Line 6 needs to send me a check. I'll be waiting. Seriously though, it's a really great product. I love it. I can't say anything bad about it. Probably the only negative was how long it took me to set it up. I had to work really hard at it, and I remember when I first got it, I really wasn't impressed. And I think that it's important that if you're going to dive into a product like this, that you know that it's going to take time to develop and to tweak tones. It's not the same as buying an amp and just plugging it in and immediately getting that amp goodness. It's going to take time. My entire rig is on this pedal board right now that you're looking at right by my feet. My amp, my cab, my delays, my reverbs, my drives, everything. It's right there, and it fits in a very small Pelican case, which I'm really, really happy about. So let's go over the HX Stomp. I'm not going to go into great detail and show you what I already showed you in the past, so I'm just going to link this video here. I broke down exactly how I was using the HX Stomp and how my stuff is set up. So if you want to sound just like me, I literally put screenshots of my settings. I give you access to all of the IRs that I downloaded, everything that I did. I put it in that video, so I'm going to link it there. So I'm not going to show you all of that detail, but I will give you a breakdown of how it's all set up. The input of the HX Stomp, I put a slight noise gate, very, very, very light. I have single coil guitars. That's all I really use. And so the noise, that normal 60 cycle hum, can be a pain to deal with, especially in certain settings without good power. So I always use a noise gate. From there, my input then Y splits, and it goes into two different amps, the AC Fawn and the Tweed Blues amp. Obviously, the AC Fawn is probably an AC30. The Tweed Blues is probably a Fender Blues of some sort amp. And they sound great. A lot of people ask me, why did I use two amps? It's not because I go stereo. It's not because I think it sounded... it's not because I was following any kind of rule. It was because I was trying different things and found that when I put those two amps together, it gave me a desirable sound. That's it. After the Y split, it goes back into one signal and into one IR, which I will link in the description box below. It's an IR made by Live Ready Sound, which sounds great. The pack is phenomenal. They have a ton of IRs for a very affordable price, in my opinion, and I really like it. From the IR, I then go into a 10-band EQ. I stole that idea from Tone Junkie. They're very big on being careful not to alter profiles, because they mainly deal with Kemper or modelers. And the reason for that is, the theory is this: when someone models an amp or profiles an amp, they profile and model it with the amp set a certain way. So when you try to alter the EQs on this amp setting, you're not necessarily altering that amp and how it would normally react. So if you brought the drive up, you're not going to get a natural drive sound from your AC30. You're going to get a digital drive pushed into an AC30. So it's not really meant to be altered in that way. So I prefer putting a 10-band EQ at the end of everything, because now I can EQ it with a little more detail and hopefully EQ it in a way where it doesn't really affect and digitalize the amps that much. From the 10-band EQ, I then go into my delays, which is the dual delay setting in the HX Stomp, and then the reverb, which is the Glitz reverb. Very quickly, let's hear what all of that sounds like. I'm going to stay on my clean channel here. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, I'm using my Nash T52, of course. before we move on from the HX Stomp, I do want to show you this little Aux switch here that's on the side of the HX Stomp. That switch is made by Analog Endeavor. It's great. HX Stomp gives you the ability to add on 2 more switches that you can kind of assigned to do whatever you want. I right now have them assigned to alter my parameters, and in the HX Stomp that's called snapshots. HX Stomp gives you 3 snapshots, and those snapshots allow you to alter settings within that particular patch. So if you have an amp and you want to add a little more drive to that amp, you can add that in another snapshot. But the way I'm currently using the snapshots is to add to my ambience. So right now it's on my normal ambient sound. Snapshot 2, I just saturated with a lot more ambience, a lot more reverb and delay. Here's what that sounds like. Then in snapshot 3, it's a lot more ambient. So this is a snapshot that I probably wouldn't play individual notes with, but I would swell with it and maybe do some drones. I'll give you a good example. So let's go to snapshot 3. Like I said, it's very, very saturated. It's not something that I will bust out all the time, but definitely it has its place. So that's hooked up via TRS cable, which comes out of the HX Stomp via the expression jack. Now let's jump back to the Boss ES5 because I want to talk about how I'm controlling the HX Stomp with the Boss ES5. So obviously I'm controlling the loops in which controls all of the drive pedals, right? But how is the HX Stomp being controlled by the ES5? Well, as you can see, I have it hooked up via a MIDI cable coming out of the Boss ES5 into the HX Stomp. The MIDI does 2 things for me, okay? I'm not big on MIDI, so if you're here to learn about exactly what to do to make this thing work, I don't really know how to tell you that, but I will give you my best breakdown of how I'm using it right now. And feature number 1 is something that I've always been doing, and that is I've been feeding the HX Stomp the tempo through the ES5, okay? So as you can see through the Boss ES5, I have it set to 72 BPMs right now. Now I can change that on the Boss ES5 by just switching this switch right here. So you can see I set it to, as you can see, I just set it to 69, but I can also tap tempo it, okay? And that is another feature that I have in the Boss ES5, which is right here. So by tap tempoing, I just changed the tempo to 84 BPMs now. And that gives the tempo to the HX Stomp via MIDI. And pretty much the units already come loaded to be able to receive that. So for example, your HX Stomp will have locking tempo under auto, and the Boss ES5 comes the same way. The other thing that you want to do if you want it to be set like I set it is you have to tell the Boss ES5 to hold that tempo globally. So that means that every time you change a patch or a loop, it can change the delay time. For me, that's a little inconvenient because I wanted to stay the same. So I set the tempo globally. So whatever it is, I put the tempo on. I could change banks, I could change patches, and it will always be at whatever tempo I set it. So right now it's at 84 BPM. So I reassigned the mute switch, which is right here, and turned it into a tap tempo switch, and that's how I was able to tap tempo versus just bending down and telling the unit what BPMs I want to play. Now obviously when I'm playing with a click track, whether in a studio or live, I'm dialing in the BPMs exactly, but not all the time do you have that. Sometimes you're just playing with a drummer without a click track. I like having the ability to do both, and it's been really, really convenient. So that covers the first half of what I'm doing with the MIDI. Here's the second half. I'm using the Boss ES5 MIDI capabilities to control the HX Stomp's preset feature. So for example, I currently have the HX Stomp loaded on my Cruz project setting. There are times where I want to use a different preset. I have a preset, for example, that has a lot less reverb because obviously this setting is very saturated, but the other setting could be maybe for faster songs where I don't need as much ambient. So what I do is I change the bank here of the Boss ES5. And as you can see, it changed the HX Stomp to Cruz low verb, which is a different preset altogether, which has a little bit of less reverb. And it doesn't sound different, just a little less reverb. If I press that bank again, it'll switch up, and that's my acoustic patch. Obviously, I'm not playing acoustic right now, so I'm not going to play that. And it also turns off the compressor as well. If I stepped on it again, it takes you to a delay patch, which is a more like edge style delay on there. Again, nothing really different sounding, just a little bit more of a prominent delay than my other setting. And then if I press on it again, it goes right back to my Cruz project setting. The one thing that I did a little bit differently than maybe other people would is that I didn't put that feature to be on every loop. Okay, what does that mean? That means that if I were on loop 2, the Morning Glory, and I tried banking up, it will bank up, but it won't change the preset on the HX Stomp. Why didn't I put it on every patch? And that's because of the snapshot. Really quickly, to show you an example, I'm going to go on the Morning Glory, which is preset or loop 2, and then I'm going to go to snapshot 3 in that loop. Then I'm going to press on clean again, which is where the patch or the program change is assigned to, and it's going to change that back to snapshot 1 because that's what it's assigned to do. But there's an issue with that. It's going to cut off the sound. Let me show you an example. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a cool feature, and I actually enjoy that because I can quickly go back to my normal sound if I feel like I have to do that in the fly. But the problem is, I don't always want that to happen. If I'm doing ambient stuff, I don't want to switch on a different drive pedal and change my sound up a little bit and then lose the ambience that I've been building for that whole time. So I don't put the program change in every single loop because if I did, every time I changed the loop, I would lose that sound. So I only program the changes or the program change in loop 1 of every single patch, so that the only way it switches is if I'm actually in loop 1. It's definitely convenient for me, especially in a live situation. For all you MIDI heads out there, you're probably asking yourself, how did I make that happen? Obviously, you're going to have to dive into the patch setting to be able to program the HX Stomp. And that information is kind of for a different video. But one thing I will say, maybe I did something wrong, but the number is off. And what I mean by that is, anyone who's ever messed with MIDI knows that each MIDI pedal gives you a PC number and a CC number. Okay, so for example, this particular Cruz project number is PC 123. But when I programmed it, I had to program it as 124 for it to change to 123, if that makes any sense. So I don't know why. I'm not an expert. Like I said, I could be doing something wrong. Maybe someone could answer that in the comment section below. But I don't really care because I figured it out that, you know, for me to get to the patch that I needed to get to, it's going to switch for me. So, yeah, long story short, I'm no MIDI expert. And finally, we'll talk about the tuner pedal. It's the newest pedal on my pedal board, actually. It's going into the tuner out of the Boss ES5. It's a great feature. It's the TC Electronics Polytune Nor Mini. Very, very tiny, very, very accurate tuner. I've been very happy with it, and I'm glad to have it on my pedal board now. It was my one complaint from my last pedal board build in the COVID one, which is another reason why I wanted to reconfigure some things. I tried living without a tuner and using headstock tuner, and it was just bad. I was in a session, I was switching guitars a lot. I kept leaving the headstock tuner in a different guitar, and I was like, that's it. I'm buying a tuner pedal and I'm redoing my board. So that's another reason why I ended up redoing my board. I didn't tell you the size of this pedal board, by the way. It's 10.5 by 19. So it's the perfect size for me, but it's a very unique size, which is why, again, I had to build the pedal board myself. So it's just a couple of slabs of wood pieced together. There's definitely not going to be a pedal train or something that size, but I'm happy that I did it because I think I saved a little bit of money by not trying to buy a custom board. That's number one. And number two, you can make it any size you want. So it's just making the sacrifice, spending a few dollars, and cutting up some wood and piecing it together so you can make your custom pedal board. So that's my pedal board, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have questions, and you might have a lot of them, I would try my best to answer every single one of them. Full disclosure, I am no MIDI expert, so if you're asking me a bunch of MIDI questions, I'll try my best to answer them, but they'll probably be very limited in knowledge because that's not something that I dabble with too often, only when I absolutely have to, like with this pedal board. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for the love and support. It's extremely important. For me to continue growing this channel, I need your help. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you know exactly when I upload a video. Tell other people about this channel, spread the word about the J. Cruz Project family, let them know I'm uploading videos almost weekly, and I try to talk guitar every single time I upload a video. Thank you again for your support, and until next time.